everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Hustle and Shine podcast today. My name is Daisha Lewis, also known as Ms. Fine Point, and I am the host for tonight. This is my first time doing this, so I'm a little nervous, but with God, we gonna persevere and make this through. So I do want to thank you all for joining tonight. Tonight I do have a special guest, Tiarra Taylor, a good friend of mine. So I pray that you all will just join in as you're logging on. Make sure you share, like, subscribe to Facebook, our YouTube channel. Bring people into the comment area, whether it's now. We look forward to you watching on the replay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm excited to interview her and, just get to know what she's been up to these past few years and everything. So hope you all enjoy the show. And so before she comes on, I'm going to do a little introduction and then she can speak a little bit more on herself. But she is a graduate of the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, FAMU. Our true rattler. She is a rattler at heart through and through. She represents them. She is a full bona fide alumnus. She is a mother of 3 beautiful little princesses, also known as Tiarra Taylor, also known as the Demolition Diva. She helps successful women demolish their comfort zones so they can stop making excuses and start executing their goals. She's an author. She's a life coach, real estate agent and investor, host and creator of a conference that she's held called the Glamference. And she hosts every year. She's done it 3 years in a row. She's done a Mom's Giving where she blesses single mothers in the DMV area with a Thanksgiving meal. And so, again, this was her 3rd year. And I'm going to let her, as she comes onto the side, I'm going to allow her to talk a little bit more about herself. So I just want everyone to help me to give Ms. Tiarra Taylor a warm welcome to the Diamond Heist tonight.
Thank you, sis. I am so excited to be here. You know, me and you go way back. It's been over a decade of sisterhood. And so I am so excited to be a part of this journey for you. And so I am Tiarra Taylor, also known as the Demolition Diva. And just like you said, I got the name Demolition Diva because, well, it started off with a cohort of mine from real estate investing. And the ladies were like, you always look so fly when you go to the construction sites. And so they gave me Demolition Diva. And then I took that and I put a spin on it. Because one of the other things they said is, Tiarra, every time you come into the room, you change the atmosphere.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, that's fire. So I use that as a platform to say, I am here as a Demolition Diva to help you demolish anything that stands in the way of you accomplishing your goals. And so, as you stated, I am a retired educator after 18 long years inside of the building, which I loved. I decided that it was time, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but it was time to go to the next level. And I'm so excited to be here and for you to be along the journey with me so that we get to do life together, because, that's really what it's about, right?
Yes. Again, thank you for joining me tonight. I know it was like, when it was my turn, I was like, ooh, I have to get my sis Tiarra on the show because your energy, top tier, and what you see is what you get. This is Tiarra all day, every day. She's not faking it. This is her. And so I'm just thankful that you did agree to do this with me.
Of course. You said this was your first time, right? And I was thinking to myself, yes. Well, this is what she was made to do, right? So although it's your first time, it won't be your last time. And God is just waiting to propel you to your next level, because we know what it is.
Okay. I received that.
You know what it is. It's time to level up. It's level up season, right? And so sometimes God has to make us uncomfortable so that we can step out of our comfort zone and get to the level that he really chose for us to be. So
yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I so needed that. And that's just really confirmation, because it's what I've been saying and speaking in just different areas. And so that's just confirmation because I have been saying, okay, I want to get out of my comfort zone. There's just certain things that I want to do. And I'm just grateful for Natima Cherie, the Queen Pen, the creator and founder of the Diamond Riders and the Hustle and Shine podcast. You normally see her every week, but I'm grateful for her because with her, it's not just about her. She makes sure that everybody gets a chance to shine, and she wants everybody to shine. And
isn't that important with women, right?
Yes.
To have a woman who is like, you know what? It's not just about me. Because to be a good leader is not just to be in control, but it's to make sure that you are creating great leaders, right? So yes, we want to shout her out for giving you this platform and this space to walk in your talent. So I'm excited. So what are we going to talk about tonight?
So, I want to give shout outs to, I see some of the Diamond Riders out in the comments out here. We have Sister Michelle, and I see Bernadette hanging out tonight. I believe I saw my sis Jessica. I believe I saw her in the comments. But I do want to start off with your career as an educator. I have my list of questions over here.
Okay.
And so one of the questions that I did want to ask you was, I know you did it for 18 plus years. What were your feelings as you were coming to the conclusion of, okay, it's about time for me to retire? What was like your state of mind when you came to the conclusion, like, okay, it's time for me to go out of the classroom? Because I know you loved your scholars and your babies. So how did you, get to that point after just 18 years? Because I know some people stay a little bit longer.
I'm so glad you asked that. So first of all, I didn't want to leave. Okay. I loved what I did. Even though, with any career, any job, any organization, you're going to have your ups and downs, right? But I loved my students. They gave me life, right? Kids are the people, they will tell you the truth. Okay. They'll be like, oh, Miss Taylor, I love your hair. Oh, Miss Taylor, you should have got your hair. Like they just give me so much life. And so I did not want to leave my babies. I was an elementary school and middle school reading and math specialist, but God kept telling me to go. And when I say I was trying to fight him every step of the way, because every time he was like, okay, it's time to go, I was like, no, it's not time to go into entrepreneurship, because, you're thinking about it. When you're single and you have no kids, it's easy, right? To kind of jump. I won't say it's easy. It's easier to jump, right? And to step out on faith. But as a new mom with 2 babies, my kids at that time were like 2 and 3 years old. It's like, okay, God, what you talking about? Like, how are you telling me to leave and I'm not going to have a steady income and or insurance, right? We as women, we always want stability. That is like what we really want. And so when God kept telling me to do it, I was just like, but this is what I learned. And I learned this from teaching. Oftentimes, my students at the end of the year, like when I teach, anywhere, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, at the end of the year, they're like, oh, Miss Taylor, we don't want to go to the next grade because we don't know who the new teacher is going to be, right? They've been in a class with a teacher who has kind of differentiated instruction, who's loved on them. And then they've been around classmates. And now it's like a bond. So they're like, I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to have new teachers. And then I have to tell them, like, listen, you passed this level. Right? 5th grade is over. Now you're going to middle school. You may have to go to a new school because we don't have 6th grade here. You're going to have a new teacher. And so just as they are scared, sometimes that's how we are. Like God is telling us, you've passed that level, Tiarra. Being in the school building, that part's over. You did a great job, sis. Now it's time to go to your next level. And I think that as women, that is hard for us at times. It is hard for us, and not even just careers, but like relationships, right? In all aspects of what we do, we've invested so much time there. We've invested so much time, so much knowledge, and it's like, okay, so what's next? We're afraid of what's next and what we don't know, because in our current circumstance, we kind of know what it is, right? And we can control it to a certain level. Even if you're at a career or a job where you don't really love your boss or the people that you're with, you know how to navigate it.
Yes.
Your best. When you go to something new, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I think that makes us fearful. And so I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned as a teacher, and how I was able to get up enough courage, because I was telling my students, listen,
yes.
you've done it. So now I had to tell myself the same thing. And God will make it really uncomfortable when it's time to move. Right? When he's trying to get your attention and you're not listening, then stuff that would go smoothly starts not going smoothly. And sometimes us as women, we have this cake that we put on because we're like super women.
Ooh,
right?
Talk about it, sis.
Right. We put this cake on, and then sometimes we think that we're way more important than we are. And so in my mind, I can't leave this school. What's going to happen to my kids? And then I was like, hold on, wait a minute. If these people had to get rid of me, if they had to fire me, they wouldn't think twice about doing it. So sometimes we have to take off the cape and stop making ourselves feel like we're more important than we really are, and really listen to God and walk in our purpose. Because when stuff starts to get too uncomfortable, that means he's trying to get our attention, right? And we know that every level comes new devils, right? So when you realize in your life, like stuff is starting to get real shaky and rocky, you're like, okay, God has something else for me. And I just had to sit in a posture that was ready to receive what my next was.
Oh my gosh, sis. That reminds me of when I was there and we were going through our ministry at First Baptist Church of Glen Arden. Because that's where we met. And even then, I loved your energy then. I mean, you were one of those sisters where it was just like, even if you were going through something, you were going to make sure your sis was okay. I just remember when you would always check on me, hey, sis, you good? You would slide a little something to the side. And that was a part of, and I knew I was about to transition down south. I was just like, I don't know. I was so nervous and I was scared, but it's just like, God was like, okay, you got to go where the help is. You have to go. Didn't want to leave that comfortability. And then I was just like, I don't want to leave my sisters. And, I was in my feelings. I didn't graduate with y'all.
Yeah. And you were a mother, right? That's the other part, is you have a little child.
Yeah. And so it was just like, okay, it's like you said, it's like, okay, now I got to think about her and where the more stability is for me to be able to do what I needed to do as it related to, taking care of her. So that is so good, sis.
Well, hold on. So after you jumped and you moved down there, so how did it go?
Listen, stuff just started. Like I moved in with my mom and dad naturally, but then it was just like stuff just started happening left and right. I was just like, oh, okay. She got into like this little pre-K school. Like it was like the ball was already rolling before I got here. Like the deadline had already passed, but when your parents got connections, and then it's just like everything just started falling in line. I was just like, ooh.
Yep. So I guess that to me sounds more so like God already had a plan and he was just waiting on you to say yes.
Yes.
Right? And then he kind of orchestrated everything else. Sometimes we try to figure out everything that's coming after. And sometimes God is just looking for our yes. Like when we say yes, then he can then start unlocking doors for us. And so I know we missed you, right? Super missed you. Not only that, your spirit has always been amazing, because remember when I first started my performing arts school and I needed volunteers to work at the stadium, you used to come there faithfully.
Man, that was so much fun.
It was so much fun, but so much work.
That too.
It was so much work. And so you've always had a heart for giving, right? And so when I think about this and think about sisterhood and having women around you that pour into you, and even when it's quote unquote not their season, they're there to support you. I think of you, because even when I was up and running and getting this stuff done, you wasn't getting paid for it. Not at all. But you show up always with amazing attitude. You are a change agent. So I'm so excited that I get to connect with you. And I know that everybody connected to you will reap the benefits of all of the blessings that God has for you. It's like an overflow. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. And Diamond Writers, because yes, I think it's so important to connect with women. People always have difficulty with women, right? People like, oh, I don't like women. I don't got no new friends. And I'm like, no, you need some new friends, right? Because at this age, we oftentimes we have this little group of people that we're cool with, and we don't want no new people. But in order to grow, we're going to need new people. And so I'm excited for people to connect with you and see everything that you have going on. I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but I'm like, listen, sis, you do yourself, and people need to connect with you too, because they need to see the anointing that you have on your life. Because when you connect with the right people, God starts to open up doors, and you don't have to try to figure out all of your next steps.
Man, listen, not at all. Because I do watch. I'm just like, yeah, okay. I'll be taking my little notes and everything. So another question that I wanted to ask you was, if you hadn't became a teacher,
okay,
what was your dream?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I had so many dreams. So I didn't really dream to be a teacher. Okay. I didn't dream to be a teacher, but I do remember sitting up in classes thinking, this is boring. I'm sure I can make this more interesting. Right. But if I could be anything else, I wanted to be an attorney. Wow. You know, I wanted to be able to argue with the best of them. Like, I always wanted stuff to be about justice and stuff to be about people being treated fairly. And I think that when you get raised a certain way, you want to advocate for people who do not have as much as others.
Oh, okay. And I can see that.
You can see that?
I could, actually.
Even though both of my degrees, I went to school for business administration and fashion design. So I really love fashion too. I really love fashion. But it's something about being an attorney just meant, I thought of it as like power. Like, you can help other people that can't necessarily help themselves.
Okay, yes. All right. So now, when you were in the transitioning from being an educator, at the time, you were saying you had 2 little girls, and I remember when you had the first one, and I was like, oh, here comes number 2. Okay. And then now, you had baby number 3, and they are all so gorgeous. Oh my gosh, girl, you have some pretty little girls now. So as a single mother,
okay,
what has that experience taught you about yourself?
That was a good question. I think it taught me that I'm stronger than I thought I was. It also teaches you never say never. You know how, like, we grow up and we're like, I would never do that. I would never do that. I would never. And then when you're in it, you're like, oh gosh, I'm doing some of these things that I would have never thought that I would do. And so that's one thing. Never say never. But another thing that I say all the time, and I teach my kids, I'm like, one monkey don't stop no show. I tell them that all the time, because the reality of the matter is, every day when I wake up, I say, God, it's me and you. It's me and you. And it doesn't matter who's not here, who I thought should have been here, who I thought should have showed up for me and my children. God is me and you. And so when you change your thought process to say, listen, it doesn't matter about the fairy tale that we had or the plans or the agendas that we had. God already knew what it was. And so when I just focus it on me and him, and say, okay, God, you're going to be the provider. You're going to be the protector. Because, for so many times, all of us as women, we have these goals and these dreams. We're like, okay, we're going to do this relationship. Oh, we're so in love. They're going to do this. We have all these plans. But I think that I don't know if I ever asked God, was this his plan? Like, I was so into what my plan was and who my person was and how I felt about them that I never sat back and was like, God. Or maybe I did, and he said no, and I still did it anyway. Because it might have been that too. Because I'm just thinking about this program that we went through, this 18-month program, and God might have been like, no. And I might have said, oh, I'm going to override God and do it anyway. So what I realized is a couple of things. I realized one monkey doesn't stop no show, which means no matter who shows up, who doesn't show up, me and my girls are going to be okay. That's we're going to win. And then having the mindset that winners win. So every day I wake up, and no matter what, I'm like, we're going to win. We're going to have everything that we need, because I get to redefine what my life and my perfect life looks like. And I don't have to be like, oh, I have to be married by this day. I have to live here. It is what I decide that it's the life that me and my daughters are going to have. And so I think that's one of the things that I really had to learn to love, that I get to recreate it. And then, but one of the things that's been the difficult part about being a single mom is this part right here. How you can plan stuff and you got to be able to pivot. Right? It's like you got to pivot. Like your plans, whatever your plans are, may not always come. And instead of being upset and frustrated and mad and angry, you're like, okay, how can I win in this situation? Because I feel like winning is a mindset. I'm going to choose the win, no matter how upset I am, no matter what, I'm going to choose to win. So that's kind of like my theory with being a single mom.
Oh, wow. Another question, and then we're going to jump into the comments. How do you manage a work-life balance, especially with having 3 young girls? I know 2 of them are in school, but then you have baby girl there. How do you manage that work-life balance?
That's a good question. So what I often tell my clients this, I tell them there's no such thing as like multitasking. Like I used to think that I was like really great at multitasking, but that's not a real thing, because when you're multitasking, something's going to have to give. You're going to have to prioritize something. And so what I think I realized that in different seasons of my life, I had to prioritize business. In certain seasons in my life, I had to prioritize motherhood. In other seasons of my life, I could prioritize service, right? Working at the church, serving at the church, doing different organizations, community service. So I think the best thing I did was I had to make up my mind that I could not do everything, and I couldn't be there for every person like I would normally want to be, right? I think that sometimes we spread ourselves so thin trying to do everything for everybody. And I realized I couldn't. So I had to prioritize. And so I created the time blocking sheet, and I'm going to send it to anybody who says TB in the comments. I'll send it to you for free. The time blocking sheet saves my life. It basically allows me to prioritize the things that are most important to me in the day and the things in the week. And so that allows me to say, okay, so for today, this might be super important for me, but tomorrow, I'm going to be focusing on my real estate clients. And on Friday, my focus is going to be on my coaching clients. Like it allows me to prioritize what's important to me during that week.
That's so good.
It's so needed, right?
It is. I'm going to need that sheet myself. So,
yeah. So in the comments, I want you to drop TB, which just stands for time blocking. It's a time blocking sheet. Do I have one right next to me? It goes over. I thought I had one right here. It goes over all the important things. So in the morning, it has a spot for you to write down like what you are grateful for. Because I think that so many times in life, we're like worried about our next accomplishment that we forget to be grateful for the things that we already have. So it has a space for you to write down like what you're grateful for. And then it has another space to write down at the top is like, what are your 90-day goals? Because what is written is real. One of my coaches, Shakira, says that all the time. What is written is real. So every day for 90 days, I am writing down these same goals because it keeps it top of mind. And then I have a whole nother space for you to write down who are the people you need to connect with today. And then what are your 4 or 5 top priorities for the day? Because you know how our days go. We can come up with plans in the beginning, and then somebody can call and say something happened with our kids. A client can call and say, and then our day is all. So one of the focuses is making sure that whatever you need to be done that's super important is done at the beginning of the day. Then I have a whole schedule for you. And then one of my favorite parts is at the end of the day, you get to kind of grade yourself. You know, that's a teacher in me. You get to grade yourself and like, okay, did I really invest in myself today? Did I do the things that were priorities for me? And the things that you didn't get accomplished, guess what you do? You put it on the sheet for the next day. Oh, wow. And so that is one of my tools that I created that can help me stay focused and be able to accomplish multiple tasks, not to necessarily balance, because nothing will ever be equal. Like nothing is ever going to outweigh motherhood, right? Motherhood is always going to be there, right? So it's not balancing, but make sure that we're prioritizing what's important to us.
That is so good. So let's go to the comments.
Okay.
See who we have out here in the comments section. Let's see here. We have our Queen Pin, Natima. Says, attitude of gratitude is my life goal.
I love it, Natima.
Let's see. Michelle McFarland says, what is written is real.
Right. If you didn't write it, it didn't happen. And you know me and my pictures, right? Because I always say when people say they went someplace, I'm like, if you don't have a picture, it didn't happen. You ain't go. So you have to have some type of evidence, proof. And being an educator, we're like, when they're writing their paragraphs, we're like, you have to cite your evidence. Where did it happen? Where did it take place? So yes, all those is TB on my page. And I know that everyone says it at Tiarra Taylor _demolition diva. You can go to the link and click it, and you can get to the time blocking sheet. But we're going to personally send it out. I'm going to personally send it out to everybody who put TB so that you don't even have to go look for it. So I'm excited about that. Tiarra Berry, so she said it sounds like a great resource. That is one of the things that has saved my life because, as a single mom,
it's crazy.
It's so much going on, right? Not just so much going on. It's like you have to give so much of your attention to
your kids.
Yeah, like this one is really laying in my lap, like right now. I'm hiding her from you guys, so you don't have to see her right now.
Man, listen, we're used to it. Kids pop in,
and pop out. But this one, she want to be on screen, so she might not pop out. She might be all up in here. So I'm trying to save you.
Motherhood. Another comment from our MV Pin, Mel Vanderpool. She said, "Tell God your plan and watch Him laugh."
Correct.
I know that for a fact. I would always say, "This is what I'm going to do." Yeah, let me show you something. Let me show you how I'm working because this is not what it is. So yeah,
this is not what I want. Right. That's why I said we have to we really have to take time and ask God what His plan is for us and see if they're really aligned. And not just ask, but ask and then listen. We ask and we be like, we hear the answer, we're like,
That's try to manipulate the answer.
Try to manipulate the answers.
It's like God doesn't need our help. It's like He's trying to help us. He doesn't need us to help Him. He already has it mapped out and planned out.
Yep. Natima said, ask, wait, listen.
Listen. And I've been working on that. I've gotten much better with that because I used to be the one that would just ask.
Okay.
And that whole, it's like, I think he said something, but that's not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just going to spot and I'll be like, God, make it so clear. I need you to make it so clear. So when crazy stuff happened, I was like, oh, God was like, it had to be this dramatic for you to know that it's time to go. Because if it happened any other way, I just would have stayed. But He was like, oh, I got to make it dramatic. All right, we're going to make it love and hip hop dramatic. We're going to make it reality TV show dramatic so that you have no choice to say, okay, this was God talking to me. Since you don't want to listen to her.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is so good. So I know that you used to be in education. Of course, your mom here, an entrepreneur. And I know that you've gone into real estate, like you're a real estate agent. I remember when you were investing. Are you still doing the real estate investing? So how did you get into that? Because I remember when you first started, and I was just like, ooh, that's something that I kind of want to do. But then that fear factor was just like, no.
Okay. I do investing. I love real estate investing. However, just like everything, I think that sometimes on social media, on TV, we glamorize things, right? And things look so sparkly, and it's so easy, but it's not. So I'm just going to tell that right now. So for everybody who wants to get into any new thing as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest things I say is as an entrepreneur is that you have to be really accountable because it costs to be the boss. Everybody wants to be the boss until you have to be accountable for yourself and others, right? And so with real estate investing, one of the biggest things is that it's you. And if you're not using your money, which most real estate investors, I would teach you not to use your own money. That means you're investing somebody else's hard-earned money. And that's a lot of stress in itself, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands. When I'm flipping properties in DC, the houses in DC are $1 million houses, right? To purchase, which means I'm putting almost $500,000 into it. So big risk, big reward. But I love the whole experience. I think that goes with the demolition part of taking something and transforming it into something that's beautiful. And I think that when I wrote my book that we didn't even talk about yet, but when I wrote my book, that was one of the things that I focused on. I focused on the fact that you can take something that some people to the naked eye would just think is trash or not good or needs to be renovated, and you can take it and you can add a couple of things to it and you can change the whole thing. And so that's what I love about real estate investing. I love it. I think that, we're taught that real estate is the biggest asset, right? We're taught that, it's probably is one of the largest purchases that you will ever make in your life. Single purchases is buying real estate. And so accumulating assets is really, really important. And I love the process of it. I always encourage everyone to own a home versus renting, because you cannot leave a legacy if you don't have anything to leave, right? And so when we're talking about generational wealth, we're talking about leaving them and giving them a head start from where we started. So that's one of the things I love about real estate. Transitioning from education into real estate wasn't that difficult. It was just making up my mind that I wanted something different for myself. And in part of teaching, one of the things that we don't have is our freedom, right? Because you got to clock in, and that's most like 9 to 5. You got to clock in a certain time, you got to leave a certain time. Someone regulates all the stuff that you do. And so being in real estate does allow you the opportunity to have a little bit of freedom, a little bit. But you still work harder as an entrepreneur than 9 to 5, because you work past the 9 to 5 hours.
Right. And you're still being accountable.
And then there's nobody there that's like, okay, do this, do this, do this. You have to make sure that you keep yourself accountable. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. But real estate has changed my life as a business. It has changed my life. And I love it.
Okay. Now, I remember that used to have a company tailored to you. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. I'm sure that you probably still use that, because I know Taylor has a specific meaning. So I noticed, like, with a lot of things that you do, mm-hmm. that is incorporated. So what is the reasoning behind using Taylor specifically? I mean, I know it's your last name, but mm-hmm. what is it specifically that everything that you do, for the most part, Taylor is attached to that?
Well, I think you just said it. I'm really big on legacy. I'm really big on generational wealth and passing something down, not just to my kids, but my kids' kids. And so Taylor is my last name. And so initially, when you were working with me, or you were volunteering with me, that was Tailored to You Fashion and Performing Arts Institute, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so that was that. And then my real estate company is Tailored to You Homes. And then all of my kids' names are Taylor, even though that's not their last names. I purposefully named all of my kids Taylor. So, the first daughter is named Taylor, and then the second daughter's middle name is Taylor, and the third daughter's middle name is Taylor, because I wanted to say, listen, I know that, they'll get married, they'll take their husband's name, but they're going to be Taylors forever. So this is something that we can pass down for generation to generation. And I think it's more so just the mindset that I was saying. It is the mindset of saying, I want to do better than we had. We don't want our kids to start on the same level that we had. We kind of want to do a Trump. And I know saying his name is taboo, but one thing about Trump's family is they left him. You know why he's the president? He was the president. It's because they left him money.
Yeah.
He had a legacy. He didn't start from zero. He had a legacy. And that's the reason why he was able to accomplish what he did accomplish. I want to give my kids that step up to say, listen, I'm first generation college graduate myself. So now my kids will know you can do that and you can do more. So me naming everybody Taylor, it is to leave my mark. It's my brand and it's my legacy.
Okay. I was wondering about that. So I'm just, okay, I noticed all of them have Taylor in their name. I knew what their last name was. I was like, okay, she has Taylor incorporated in all 3 girls. So that's good. Legacy.
Yeah, because in my mind, it's going to be a big multi-million-dollar empire, and I want them to be able to take it over. And so, my nephews, their last name will be Taylor because they're my brother's kids. So my daughters need to have Taylor just as well.
Just as well. Yeah. Okay. Because I noticed in a few of your properties that you've renovated, I noticed, I think like maybe it might have been the first one you did where you wrote everyone's name on the wall.
I do.
Before you did the demolition on it. But I remember you writing, each person's name, your kids, your nephews. I remember seeing you write on the wall. You were like, this is legacy. And you wrote their names and everything on the wall. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like so good.
And yeah, you know what? That's a reminder of my why. And so I always ask people, like, what is your why? When people say they want to be in real estate, they were like, what is your why? And for me, my why is my children. My why is my nephews. I didn't have the boys, but both of my brothers have boys. So they are just as much as my legacy as my daughters are. Because when we are gone, they will be the next generation of Taylors. And so when I spray paint their names on it, it is a reminder to me that I can't give up. Like, that quit is not an option. Like, when we get tired, we can take a break, we can rest, we can reset, but we have to keep going, and we got to keep pushing towards the goal. And the goal is to be able to leave generational wealth to my family and to be able to impact the community by renovating homes that are dilapidated, that are just not in good condition, that are bringing the property values of the homes down in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area.
Okay. So I'm kind of going to transition into girl, get your glam back. And I do have to get my copy, but I want a signed copy.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send it out tomorrow.
I do want a signed copy, but as someone that, you know, I know you just did your book, and as an author, what are some books that you read outside of, you know, what are your favorite books that you like to read?
Oh, was it not up here? Oh, this is one of my favorite, Jump by Steve Harvey. This helped me make my jump. When I left teaching, that was one book that helped me take my jump. Hold on for 1 second. Okay, I'll get it for you, Mama. Okay. One of my other books that I would definitely recommend is Mindset. This is a book that I live by. And just, I don't think you can do anything if your mind's not right. Right? Depression, anxiety, just doubt. I don't think that you will be able to accomplish and be your best you if your mind is not together. And then the other one that I love is called The 12-Week Year. Have you heard of that one?
I have not.
Have you heard The 12-Week? Oh, I think I gave it to one of my clients. The 12-Week Year is amazing. And let me tell you why. It's under the premise that as people, we wait to the last minute. So we start off the year and we have all these New Year's resolutions. We're going to do all this amazingness, right? And after the first month, when we didn't do it, we just be like, done, and it's over, right? And then towards the end of the year, we come back and be like, oh, we're going to, yes, Natima, we're going to like start working, right? Same thing with summer, right? Summer, we're like, okay, summer is like July, August, January, February, March, April, we ain't doing nothing. When it's almost the summertime, then guess what? Everybody wants to work out. What their whole premise is, in 12 weeks, you can get as much done as you would get in 12 months. It is structured every week like it is a month and being very intentional about your goals. That is a book that I live by. And my last book was one of my first books that I taught for my students, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book helps me out because it gives you everything that you really need to be successful. And it helps you understand how millionaires think. And I always say, like, you can learn from mentors and mistakes. You can either figure it out by yourself, or you can go through and find people that have already done it, and you can learn from them. So those are some of my top books that I have been reading lately.
Get that 12-week year.
You're going to love it. And they even have a workbook that goes with it.
Oh, wow. I definitely have to check that out. So how did you know you wanted to be an author?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to say everybody should be an author. I think that being a teacher, we learn, like, back in the day, especially from Black and Brown. And I'm sorry if you guys hear Tori singing. She's like, it's bedtime. And she's like, okay, Mom, let's go. And I ain't leaving till you leave. Okay. But back in the day, you know, one of the things that as slaves, they didn't allow us to do was to read. Right? We couldn't read because reading is knowledge and knowledge is power. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, I'm writing a book. I learned that way back in elementary school. I learned that way back in elementary school that they deprived us the right to read. So I was like, I'm writing a book. And so I've written several books, but this is the first time that I completed it and I actually self-published it by myself. So I just knew that knowledge is power. And so everybody has a story. And I say that all the time. Like, that's why I say everybody should write a book, because everybody has a story and everybody has nuggets of things that they can teach and pass down to someone else. And sometimes we downplay our knowledge. All the different degrees, all the different classes, like all the different work that we do, everybody can teach somebody something. And so that's why I say that everybody needs to write a book. I don't care if it's an ebook. If you want to write an ebook it, but everybody should write some type of book and in the process of it, monetize it and make some money.
Yes, that is so good. I know Alicia is like, she's getting to a place where she's like, I want to write a book. So she'll be in her room and she like writes stuff down. She does her little poetry stuff. And so, I let her be this teen phase. Woo. So I let her be. I let her be, and so that is so good. And I know I did mention the title of your book, Girl, Get Your Glam Back. But I wanted to know, and so you can let the audience know, what does the acronym GLAM stand for, and how did you actually come up with the title for your book?
That was a great question. Well, this is what I always say to my clients. I always say that oftentimes other people will see your greatness before you see it. And people always say, girl, you always so glam. You always dress so nice. You da-da-da. And so when I thought about glam, me using my teacher again, my teacher knowledge, it's like, this has to be an acronym for something. And so GLAM stands for God, Legacy, Ambition, and Mom Life. And so for me, everything has to be God-centered, because if God ain't in it, I don't want it.
Amen.
Legacy focus. It always has to be about how I'm treating people and what's the impact that I'm going to make on other people. And for me, legacy is not just about when you're dead and gone, what people are going to remember about you, but what do people remember about you while you're here? How do you make people feel? And what impact do you make on people? And then ambitions means, for me, all your different accomplishments. All your different accomplishments that you want to accomplish, and knowing that nothing can stop you from doing the things that you really want to do when you make up your mind to do it. And the last one, M is for Mom Life. And what that encompasses, everything and anything. And a lot of my clients, some of my clients do not have kids. And so we talk about that M not just being about mom life, but also being about being a mentor. If you're not a mom, about being a mentor, because when we think about moms are the people that we nurture people. We bring about life. We let people know that they can go and accomplish whatever they want to do, and we nurture them. So if you're not in the phase of motherhood, you're searching to be a mom, you don't want to be a mom, you just want to be a mentor. Just like I said about everybody should write a book, everybody should be a mentor, because everybody has something that they can teach someone else. And so with that glam, when I wear that glam shirt, it just reminds me that it's not just about what you look like on the outside, but who you are on the inside. And so many times we forget about how we treat people, how we make people feel, and we just think about us, and how we look and put ourselves together. But Christ calls us to disciple other people, and the only way to get people to come to him is by how we treat other people. So that's kind of how I came up with the acronym GLAM, because I want everything to have a meaning when you leave.
Yes, okay. That is so good. Because I was just like, I like the title. And I knew what it stood for, but I wanted everyone else to hear the reasoning behind what GLAM stood for. And I know you said you've written a few books, but this is the first one that you actually self-published. What were some challenges that you faced going through that process? Because I know at some point you stopped a little bit and then you would go. So what were some of the challenges you faced?
I think like with any goal that we have, sometimes we don't have the whole blueprint, how to get it from start to finish. And initially when I was writing the other books, I was just writing. I didn't have a blueprint. And the reason why I was able to get GLAM done is because I hired a coach. I hired a coach. I hired a book coach because I was like, this is something I want to do. And time out for playing small, time out for second guessing myself. This is what I want to get done. At that time, I was like, what, 40? I felt like I was like turning 40. And I was like, nah, I mean, if anybody can write a book and all these people write a book, I can write a book too. So I had made up my mind. I think that that's like the start of most of us. It's like, you got to make up your mind you want to do it, and then don't take any excuses, period. And you'll see that too when you talked about the demolition on my buildings, on my projects. I also spray no excuses because it's just a reminder to me that although I'm doing a lot of things by myself, I may not have all the money that I want. I may not have all the time I want. I am not going to make excuses. I'm always going to make a way. I'm not going to sit here and complain about what's not done. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And so I think that when I had the opportunity to write this book and this person came across that was super credible and people were like, had a great experience, I was like, I'm going to hire her. And I wrote the book in 3 days. The book was written in 3 days. She had a 3-day program. And I was just like, let's get it. And I got it. And it's feel like yesterday was National Book Signing Day or National Book Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, so just proud of myself. And I think it's more so that represents me overcoming so many things and still accomplishing my goals. Because I know that sometimes we can make excuses for ourselves. Like, oh, well, I'm a single mom, so I don't have time to do this, or I don't have all the money to do this. And I don't know. We make time for what we want to make time for. And I wanted to be an author. And I was going to make sure that I had this in this book. My kids will be able to read this for years to come to know what my story is. Right. And so that's why I say, hey, no one knows your story like you know your story.
Right.
And you want your story to be passed down from generation to generation. So I'm going to encourage everybody to write. Pick up a pen and write. And if you need a blueprint, that is what I do. I coach women to start working and getting out of their comfort zone, to start executing their goals and stop making excuses for the things that we can't do and start accomplishing the things that we want to do.
That is so good. And I know that, because you are showing your book, how can they purchase your book? Like, where can they go to purchase?
So it's a link in my bio. It's a link in my bio so you can get your book. You can DM me and then I can send you the link personally and I can send you an autographed copy. In the next month, I'm going to do my relaunch of this book, my second edition, and I'm going to put it on Amazon because this time as a self-published author, I was selling it myself and not going through a third party. And so, we talked about challenges and stuff about being an author. And I think one of the challenges is knowing what to do, knowing how the process of writing a book. Everything has processes. And I say you can learn from mentors and mistakes. You can sit there and try to, figure it out. And most people, you either have time or money. And at that point in time, I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I had to make the money to make it make sense. And some people may say, I don't have the money. So you have the time and you might just want to Google how to do it. You want to just like DIY your way through. And that's okay. Well, for those women who are like, listen, I do not have time to be DIY. Give me the blueprint. What do I need to do to start this book, to get this book finished in this amount of time? And that's what we can do.
Wow. I know I definitely have to get my copy, but like I said, I want a signed copy.
Of course.
But how much to get that purchase? We are coming to the end of the show.
Okay.
And before we do that, because we like to end with the gem.
Okay.
And so as we get ready to close out, what is a gem that you would leave for the people?
If I had to pick one gem that I would leave for the people, it would be this. You are your greatest asset. You are your greatest asset. Many people are liabilities, which means they are going to depreciate in value. They will drain you. They will suck you dry. You have to surround yourself around other assets, other people who will pour into you. Connecting with the right people can be the difference between having success and not having success. So I want you to keep the mindset of I am an asset in every room that I walk into. Opportunities will come because I'm connected with the number one power source, which is Christ. And when you connect to the number one power source, everything else just falls in line.
That is so good. That is so good. And before I give my gem, how can the people get in touch with you? Like, where can they contact you?
Oh, yay. So if you want to contact me on Instagram, I'm at Tiarra Taylor _demolition diva. On Facebook, the same. And my website is iamtiarrataylor.com. It's right there below. Again, as a coach, my goal is to help women step out of their comfort zone and start walking in their purpose. So if you feel like that you need some assistance with that, I am here for you. And if you want that time blocking sheet because you need to start organizing your life and being able to be productive, go ahead and you can DM me TB and I'll send that right over to you.
That is so good. So for my gem, and this is something that I heard at church this past Sunday by the apostle that was there preaching. And this stuck out to me. I was just like, I just been replaying it over and over. But he said, just because a person doesn't do what you do, doesn't mean they don't have the capacity to do. So we don't want to miss purpose judging the display, because you don't know what that person may have the capacity to do. So, and that has stuck with me all week. I was just like, that's so good. Don't miss purpose judging the display. Someone can look like a bum, but don't miss their purpose because that's how they're dressed. You don't know why they're dressed like that. That could just be, okay, I'm out, I'm chilling, but that can be your $1 million connection, your $1 billion connection. Yep. So when he said that on Sunday, I was like, whew, mine was blown. Like, don't miss the purpose judging the display. And then also the whole, just because a person doesn't do what you do doesn't mean they don't have the capacity to do. They may not be able to do what you're doing with that exact same experience. However, they have something that they can do that you may need help doing as well. So just because we don't always do the same thing doesn't mean that I don't have something that can benefit you as well. Yep. So that is my gem.
I love it.
For the show. So as we get ready to close, I do want to again thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Tuning into this Diamond Heist. Make sure to tune in next Wednesday. We meet every Wednesday for a new episode. And shameless plug. It's not a shameless plug, but we do have our 4th anthology dropping on April 30th, titled She Is. And on May 5th, we have our virtual launch, and you don't want to miss that. It'll be right here on Facebook Live. You can catch us on Instagram, but you do want to make sure that you tune into that. And as always, and as our Queen Pin always says every week, always remember and continue to hustle and shine. See you all next week. Thanks for joining.
Hustle and shine, ladies.
Let's go. Let's go.